My dad stole my dying grandfather's last $25K for my sister's wedding. That money was for his treatment, his care home, and his final months alive. Dad left a note saying, "We needed it." I said nothing until I set the empty cedar box in front of her groom's family. My name is Alex Carter. I'm 28, a journeyman electrician, and for the last 4 years I've been my family's walking ATM. Nobody in that house ever called it that out loud. They called me our rock. They called me such a good son. They called me the one we can count on. But every one of those phrases had a dollar amount attached, and I was the one who paid it. The mortgage on my parents' 4-bedroom house, $3,200 a month. That came out of my account on the 5th every month for 4 years. My father's prescriptions, my mother's car insurance, the gas bill, the cable bill, my sister Madison's $48,000 leased SUV signed in my name when she was 23 because her credit was, quote, still healing. My father hasn't held a job longer than 3 weeks since I was in high school. He's 56. He collects unemployment between gigs and says his back's bad. The chore list on the kitchen whiteboard had 4 columns and 1 name on it. Mine. Whenever I pushed back on any of it, my father had one phrase he used like a credit card terminal. Family comes first, Alex. In our house, family first meant me first into the bank line. The only person in that house who ever paid me back in something other than guilt was my grandfather, Walter. 6 months before all this, Walter sat me down in the lobby of Sunset Ridge Memory Care, 81 years old, stage 3 pancreatic cancer, maybe a year on the clock. He handed me the cedar lockbox with both hands and a slow, tired smile. $25,000, he said. Last of it. Hide it somewhere your father can't smell it. It was the next year of his life. Facility fees through August, the copay for a clinical trial Dr. Patel was getting him into, and a small reserve for extra nurse hours at the end. Then he reached into his jacket and handed me a manila folder. Inside was a notarized power of attorney, dated the 14th of March 2023. Financial agent, me, Sol. I picked you, Walter said, because your father can't be trusted with rent money, let alone a dying man's. Grandpa knew exactly which one of us would steal from him. I walked downstairs the next morning with the Post-it still in my hand. My father was at the kitchen island, a mug of coffee in one hand and Madison's tablet in the other. He was scrolling her wedding Pinterest board like he hadn't spent the night before crowbarring my bedroom floor. I held up the sticky note. "Where is it, Dad?" He didn't look up. He took a sip. He set the mug down on the marble like he had all the time in the world. "Wedding venue," he said. "I put down the deposit yesterday. Wexley Vineyard Estate, $22,500. The florist took the other $2,500 as a retainer. He said the numbers the way a man tells you the weather." I waited for an apology. There wasn't going to be one. "That money is Grandpa's," I said. "That money is his clinical trial. That money is his bed at Sunset Ridge through the fall." My father finally looked up. "Your sister gets one wedding, Alex. He gets one death. And he's already dying. The money was sitting there. Your grandfather isn't going to use 25 grand worth of facility before he goes." He turned the tablet around so I could see the screen. The deposit confirmation from Wexley Vineyard Estate was pulled up Saturday, October 18th, balance due 30 days before the date. Underneath it, a row of pinned photos, white floral arches, a string quartet, a champagne tower. "This is going to be the wedding of the year," he said. "Tyler's family is footing most of it, but the deposit had to come from us. It had to look real. You think I was going to put a Wexley deposit on a credit card with my name on it? Be serious. Then put it on yours." "I don't have one." "You know I don't have one." I stared at him. "You stole from a dying man so my sister could pin a champagne tower." He shrugged. Actually shrugged. Coffee in one hand, dying father in the other. Family comes first. "Alex, you of all people should know that." He sipped his coffee like he just paid a parking ticket. Madison came down the stairs barefoot, in a $14,000 Pernovia's gown she hadn't paid for, holding her phone out for me to look at. "Mom, I'm trying it on for the seamstress later. Don't lose it, Alex. Why are you yelling at Dad?" She didn't really want an answer. She walked past me to the fridge, pulled out a sparkling water, and posted herself against the island next to Dad like the two of them were one team, and I was a complaint window. "Grandpa's money," I said. "Dad took it. For your venue." She made a face. Not a guilty face. The face you make when someone tells you the line at the post office is long. "Okay," she said slowly, "and Tyler is bringing real money into this family, Alex. The Halseys are flying in cousins from Vermont. We needed the venue locked down before someone else grabbed October. Dad did what Dad had to do. It's Grandpa's clinical trial. Grandpa is going to die in that place anyway. She sipped the sparkling water. At least the money did something pretty. I stood there. I let that sentence sit in the room until it stank. She didn't take it back. She glanced down at her ring instead, $9,800 of round-cut diamond, and turned her hand so it caught the kitchen light. You should be writing the check, honestly, she said. Not crying about a closet. That was when my mother came in. She was already dressed, already in her $400 mother of the bride dress, with the price tag tucked behind her elbow. She'd clearly been listening from the hallway, because she walked straight to me and put her hand on my arm like a hostage negotiator. Alex, honey, don't do this today. Mom, he stole $25,000 from Grandpa. He moved it. He moved it for the family. And we'll figure out Grandpa's bills. We always figure it out. That's what we do. You always figure it out by calling me. She let go of my arm. Your sister has a real chance to marry up. Alex. A real chance. Don't be the brother who tanks her wedding over a closet box. I didn't say gold digger. I didn't have to. The phrase sat in the back of my throat like a tooth I wasn't going to swallow yet. You're calling theft a closet box, I said. Don't be dramatic. By dinner, the whole house was acting like I was the thief. 2 days later, on Thursday morning, my phone rang while I was on a job site pulling conduit through a basement ceiling. The number was Sunset Ridge. It was Brenda from billing. Calm, careful voice, the kind they train people to use when the news isn't good. Mr. Carter, we tried Walter's auto pay this morning. It came back insufficient funds. The linked account is empty. Empty. Zero balance. We'll need $4,800 by end of business next Thursday, or we'll have to issue a discharge notice for room 217. And Dr. Patel's office is asking whether to keep his Friday, the 15th oncology appointment on the books. I climbed down off the ladder slowly so my voice wouldn't shake. Keep the appointment, I said. I'll have the money. I didn't know how. I just knew I would. $4,800 was 1 month of facility, not 4. The Cedar lockbox was supposed to cover Walter clear through January. Now I had 7 days to find the first chunk before they wheeled an 81-year-old man with stage 3 pancreatic cancer out of his bed. I drove home at lunch. The kitchen was empty. Madison was at a fitting. Dad was, I assume, somewhere proud of himself. The mail was stacked on the island in the careless tower it always grew into when nobody felt like sorting it. I started flipping through it for the Sunset Ridge invoice, in case it had already arrived in paper. That's when I found the Capital One statement. Addressed to Alexander J. Carter. My exact legal name. My address. An account number I had never opened. The current balance was $9,427. I stood there in the kitchen with the envelope in my hand, and I read every line. The card had been opened on July 9th. The application listed my social, my employer, my date of birth. The signature on the application printed at the bottom of the customer copy was a careful, right-leaning forgery of the way I sign checks. The charges started 2 days later. Wexley Vineyard Estate, $3,000 even. The same florist, $1,500. A wine vendor in Napa, $2,100. A custom invitation suite, $840. A string quartet deposit, $650. The rest in smaller hits, all of them tied to the same wedding. My father hadn't just emptied the Cedar lockbox. He'd been opening accounts in my name since July to fund the wedding before he ever needed to touch the cash. The cash was the last piece, not the first. I sat down at the island. I put the statement next to the empty mug he'd left from that morning. I looked at the date on the application, July 9th, and I did the math in my head for the second time that week. July 9th was 3 days after I'd co-signed Madison's lease renewal. He had practiced my signature off a lease. He didn't just empty my closet. He emptied my name. I called Mr. Halloran from the driveway. He'd drawn up Walter's POA in March in a small office on the 3rd floor of the Riverbend Bar building. He saw me Friday at 3. I slid a manila envelope across his desk. The empty Cedar lockbox, the Post-it, the Capital One statement, the Sunset Ridge invoice, and the original POA he'd notarized himself. He read for 9 minutes without speaking. Then he stacked the papers, squared them, and said, "Theft from an incompetent senior under State Elder Abuse Statute 4112-7. Class C, felony. Mandatory minimum 18 months. The forged credit application is a separate federal count. What do I need to do? I need Walter to sign a complaint. Is he lucid? On good days. We'll go on a good day. You understand, once he signs, the DA decides, not us. Your father will be arrested. There's no version of this where you and your father go back. There hasn't been a back to go to. He nodded. He slid a card across the desk. One more thing. Local arraignments are public record. The Gazette covers them every week. That was the seed I needed. I called Dana Reyes from the parking garage. Riverbend High class of 2014, court reporter at the Gazette for 6 years. Alex Carter. Haven't heard your voice since prom. I'm not asking for a story. I'm asking you to watch next month's arraignment docket. A name you'll know is going to show up on it. How recognizable. My father. Elder abuse and forgery. Complaint goes in Monday. A pause. Off the record. Are the receipts clean? Notarized POA. Bank deposit slip. Forged Capital One application, filed by an attorney. Then I'll be at the arraignment. Print Wednesday morning. Archived forever. Dana. The engagement party is Saturday the 4th. The Halsey estate. She went quiet. When she spoke, she was a journalist and not a classmate anymore. Every guest at that party will have read the article before they put their shoes on. Tyler Halsey texted me that night. I had never met him. 6 months engaged to my sister, exactly 2 prior text messages between us. My mother's people ran a routine background. We need to talk before the engagement party. Privately. Tomorrow. I went the next morning. 11th floor of a building downtown. Halsey Logistics, second-generation family firm. Glass conference room, no one else in it. Tyler was 31, pressed shirt, the calm of a man who has never had to prove he matters. He slid a 1-page report across the table. Brennan Investigations. My mother's cousin runs it. We do this for every fiancé on either side. It's not personal. I read the page. A $25,000 deposit to Wexley Vineyard Estate, paid by my father from an account that didn't exist 3 months ago. The Capital One account in my name. 3 wedding gift requests. Madison had texted Tyler's mother $12, $25, and $40,000. The largest had gone out the same week Walter entered memory care, and 1 direct quote from Tyler's mother to Tyler, sent that morning. This girl is not marrying you. She is marrying a last name. She is a gold digger, and she is going to bleed our family the way she bled hers. Tyler looked at me. He wasn't angry. He was calm the way a person is calm right before canceling a contract. One question, Alex. Is your sister marrying me, or is she marrying my last name? My last name doesn't have any money attached to it. So you tell me. He nodded once. Saturday is in 9 days. Bring whatever paperwork your attorney has finalized. Bring the Cedar box. Don't tell anyone we spoke. Why the box? Because 80 guests need to see what was inside it. And what wasn't. I sat at the kitchen table that Saturday with 3 documents in front of me. The first was Sunset Ridge's discharge notice draft. $4,800 or Walter loses room 217 by Thursday. The second was a foreclosure pre-notice from Mid-Hudson Federal, dated August 30th, 90-day window, my name first on the mortgage because 4 years ago I was the only Carter the bank would underwrite. The third was the Capital One statement. $9,427 in my name. I tried to do the math one more time. If I put 4 months of facility on a card, refinanced the SUV in my own name, and skipped my own rent, I might keep the wedding from collapsing. Walter would still lose the trial. The house would still go underwater because Dad still didn't have a job. Madison's wedding gift request to Tyler's mother would still come due, and they'd land on my account next, because that's the only account in the family that pays. And the next time my father needed $25,000, he already had my signature on file. I closed the folder. Staying quiet was no longer free. Staying quiet was the most expensive thing left. Sunday, at 4 o'clock, I was back in Tyler's conference room. I brought a manila envelope of my own this time. Halloran signed legal opinion on letterhead. The draft criminal complaint with my grandfather's signature line still blank. Walter would sign Monday morning at Sunset Ridge before Dr. Patel's appointment. I told Tyler the truth in 3 sentences. Walter signs the complaint tomorrow. The DA will charge my father within the week. The Gazette runs the article on Wednesday morning. Tyler read Halloran's letter without speaking. He picked up his phone, scrolled, pressed call, put it on speaker. Dad. I have Alex Carter in the room. Madison's brother. The one I told you about. A voice answered, dry and unhurried. Hello, Alex. Edward Halsey. I'm retired from the bench, but I sit on the county bar's discipline committee, so I'd like to be careful. Walk me through the paperwork. I walked him through it. POA, deposit slip, forged Capital One application, Halloran's opinion, statute number. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he was quiet for 5 seconds. That complaint will hold. Halloran's careful. The federal count is what makes it ugly for your father. Tyler, are you asking what I think? I am, Dad. I think this young man is doing the right thing on a difficult clock. And I think your mother was right about the engagement. Tyler hung up. He looked at me across the table. He didn't ask me to call it off. He asked me to bring the Cedar box to the mansion. The Halsey estate sat at the end of a private road outside Riverbend, 4 columns and a circular drive. Saturday, October 4th, 7 in the evening. 80 guests, a string quartet in the corner, 3-tier ice sculptures shaped like Madison and Tyler's initials on the entry table. My sister was in pearl silk, my mother in pale blue, and my father was already holding a glass of champagne and working the room. I stood by the foyer with the Cedar lockbox under one arm and a manila envelope under the other. I did not move. The Riverbend Gazette was folded on a side table near the coat check. I had passed it on the way in. Half the guests had it open on their phones already. The headline ran across page 2. Local man charged in elder abuse theft. Print edition, Wednesday morning, 3 days before the party. Tyler's father stood across the room in a charcoal suit. He saw me. He nodded once. At 7:30, my father tapped his glass with a knife. He gave a toast. 3 minutes long. He thanked the Halseys. He praised Madison. He said his children had always been raised to put each other first. His voice got softer at the end the way it does when he wants you to think he's about to cry. He raised his glass. In this family, he said, family always comes first. 80 people clapped. I set the Cedar box on the foyer marble. I unlatched the lid in front of the people standing nearest. I did it slowly. I didn't say anything. I laid the documents out one by one, on the marble next to the box. The bank deposit slip, showing $25,000 wired to Wexley Vineyard Estate, my father's signature on the bottom line. The forged Capital One application with my social security number on it and a printed signature that wasn't mine. Walter's notarized power of attorney, dated March 14th, naming me. Halloran's filed criminal complaint, stamped by the county clerk Monday morning. And, on top of everything, a single photograph. My grandfather in room 217, IV taped to the back of his hand, 81 years old, looking at the camera the way a tired man looks at a friend. The room went quiet by degrees. People nearest the foyer looked first. Then they passed the documents back. Then a woman in green by the bar covered her mouth. My mother reached for the photograph of Walter, picked it up, and froze. Tyler's father walked over. He picked up the complaint. He read it carefully, in front of the room, the way a judge reads anything aloud. Elder abuse. Statute 41-12-7. Class C felony. Federal forgery count attached. Those words landed in the foyer like dropped silverware. Madison's face went white. My father opened his mouth to say I was being dramatic. The judge cut him off. Tyler crossed the room. He walked straight to Madison. He took her left hand in his and slid the ring off her finger himself, calmly, the way you'd take a key off a hook. My family doesn't marry into households that steal from dying men. He turned and handed the ring to his mother. Not back to Madison. To his mother. Mrs. Halsey took it without looking at it. She looked at Madison instead. Late 50s, gray blonde, very still. Sweetheart, she said, my son was never going to be your retirement plan. Madison made a sound I had never heard her make. That was when 2 sheriff's deputies stepped into the foyer. The warrant had been issued Wednesday morning, the same day the Gazette ran the article. My father had not been home in 3 days. They asked him to come with them. Politely. Hands visible. Under 80 pairs of eyes. He did not look at me. He looked at my mother, crying into a cocktail napkin, and at Madison, already running up the staircase. Then he walked out with the deputies, between the ice sculptures of his daughter's initials. I picked up the Cedar box. I walked out the front door past the same valet who had taken my keys. I walked out carrying the same empty box. For the first time in years, it felt heavy with what it didn't hold. The DA filed the federal count 9 days later. My father took a plea 22 months in a state facility on the elder abuse charge, restitution on the wire fraud. The Wexley deposit was non-refundable. The vineyard sued my parents, Madison's florist, the wine vendor, and the string quartet all served separate small claims notices. I stopped paying the mortgage on the family house the Monday after the party. Mid-Hudson Federal sent the official 90-day foreclosure notice 11 days later. My mother called me 47 times that Sunday. I answered exactly once. "Mom, I am not the family ATM. I am not your son right now. Stop calling." I hung up. Madison moved out of the house when the power got cut. She landed in a studio apartment on the east side and texted me one line, 2 weeks after the engagement party. "Can you just help with 1 month's rent?" I never replied. The Riverbend Gazette ran a follow-up the morning of the plea hearing. Dana wrote it herself. Walter signed the complaint from his hospice bed in November. Dr. Patel got him into the trial in December. He lived 8 more months. He read the verdict in the paper. He folded the article. He put it on the nightstand next to a photograph of my grandmother. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment 4 miles from Sunset Ridge the week of the plea hearing. I paid for Walter's last 11 months out of my own paycheck. No cosigners, no mortgages in my name, no relatives on the account. Tyler sent a card after Walter's funeral. Mrs. Halsey sent flowers. My mother mailed 3 letters that spring. I never opened any of them. The Cedar lockbox sits empty on my bookshelf now, between a coffee mug and a framed photograph of Walter at 80. Sometimes a friend asks about it. I tell them what was in it once and what wasn't, and I leave it at that. Family comes first? Yeah, my family of one. And that's enough.